Hey everyone, I just wanted to provide a walkthrough for homework 2.5 on problems number 2 and number 3. So in problem number 2, you're given a frequency distribution table. That's why it says FDT on top in the problem statement. So here on the top left corner, we have our FDT, our frequency distribution table. And so we're given these data values and we're shown the frequency and we're asked to find the mean, median, and mode. So let's start with the easiest one first, the mode. So the mode is the value that occurs the most. So in our frequency, we have 2, 4, 3, 3, and 8. So clearly 8 is happening the most. So this is going to be our mode here. It's 8. The median is done a little bit differently. So in order to compute the median, we need to know how many data values we have. So the number of data values we have is precisely just the sum of the frequencies, right? So I'm going to equal sum, and I'm going to add up or highlight the frequency area and then just hit enter. So I have 20 values. So because I have an even number, I know that the median is going to occur between the 10th and the 11th values. So it's the midpoint. So I have the first 10 values and then I have the next 10 values. So that's the midpoint between 10 and 11. So the 10th and 11th values, where do they occur? I could count. I don't really want to. So I'm going to do a cumulative frequency here. So to do my cumulative frequency, I just start off the top with just the frequency itself. So equals the frequency. And then for the next one, I'm going to say it equals the frequency for plus the previous frequencies. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fill that out. So again, a good check is always that these two match. It's really important. If they don't, you have an error somewhere. Either it's probably in your cumulative frequency. It may also be that you didn't highlight enough of the or all of the data values to compute the sum of your frequencies. Okay, back to the task at hand. So we're looking for the midpoint between the 10th and the 11th. So where do the 10th and 11th data values occur? Well, they don't occur in the 29 category or the 30 category, because by the time I'm in my 30 category, I only have 6 values. And similarly, they don't occur in the 31 category either, because up until that point, I only have 9. So since 10 and 11 are between 9 and 12, that means that they occur in the 32 bin. So my median is going to be 32. And instead of typing 8, I'm going to be just calling on the cell itself. That is totally wrong. The mode is not 8. I apologize. The mode is 33. Sorry. There we are. Much better, right? Oh, only took me 5 minutes to figure that out. All right. Now the part that's a little bit challenging. It's the mean. So basically what you want to do for the mean. So remember that the mean equals the sum of your frequency times X. We've seen this before where it was the midpoint, but we don't have ranges. So we're just going to use the data value itself. And then we're going to divide this by the sum of the frequencies. That's how we compute our mean. So first of all, we need, I'm going to show you how to do it in a table. Check this out. That's pretty cool. I don't need my cumulative frequency for this. So I'm just going to copy this chunk over here. So I'm going to do frequency times X. So remember that data is really what I'm referring to as X. I don't think I need that second row. Okay. I don't really care to have this highlighted. Okay, super. So my frequency times X. So I have 2 values of 29. So instead of saying 29 plus 29, plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30. Did I say 4 30s? Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, take this. I have 2 29s. So I take 2 times 29. I have 4 30. So instead of going 30 plus 30 plus 30 plus 30 to get 120, I'm like, no thanks. I'm going to just make Excel do it. So that's going to be 4 30s or 4 times 30. So I could do that by hand, blah, blah, but you know, I love to just double click and have it drop down. So now this is our frequency times X. So now to get the sum of our frequency times X, I'm just going to use the sum command. So equals sum, highlight the things I want to add up and press enter. And I also need the sum of the frequencies, right? I already did that above, but just for grins, I'll do it again. Equals sum, highlight all of my frequencies. So now my mean is going to be the sum of the frequencies times X divided by the sum of the frequencies. And so I get 31.55. Make sure to be careful of rounding. So your mean should be rounded to 1 decimal place because the original data is whole numbers. So again, you can right click the cell, click format, go to number, and just tell it that you want 1. Thanks, Excel, boom, done. All right, I want to show you one more example. It's got a little bit of a twist on it as far as the median is concerned. So looks the same, but there's a small difference that you'll see. So let's say I want to do the same thing again. I want to do mean, median, mode. So we can start off with the mode again, that's fine. So the mode is going to be the thing that happens the most, which for us is down here. Frequency 10 is the highest, so that is associated with data value 24. Hence the mode is 24. The mean, I'm going to do the same thing again. So check this out, by the way. If I copy this table and I paste it here, I'm going to, since all of these formulas are set up based on this data, I'm going to take this data, copy it, and I'm going to paste it right here. And then I'm going to take this frequency, copy it, paste it right there. So I didn't have to rework my table again, which is again why Excel is awesome. So I just simply updated the data and the frequencies, and then I got what I needed to get, which was the mean. So I want to round that to 1 decimal place. So when I round this to 1 decimal place, I'm actually going to get 23.0. So I'm going to say this equals, and I'm just going to call on this cell, and then I'm going to do the formatting again. Format, number 1. Okay. The median, kind of funky. So let's do our cumulative frequency. Click on just 1, the first frequency, and then for the subsequent frequencies, it's 1 to the left plus the 1 above. And I can do that ad nauseum, which you know I don't like to do that, but just showing you that it's possible. Okay, and then so just to double check that this should be 20, let's go ahead and take the sum of the frequencies just to verify. Okay, super, so we are looking good. We've got matching. All right, so again, we've got 20 data values. So that means that my median is going to occur between the 10th and 11th values, just like last time. So where do the 10th and 11th values occur? Well, now it gets interesting. The 10th value occurs as a 23. The next value after that is no longer in that 23 category. The 11th value the next value after the 10th data value occurs in this 24 box. So you have to be very careful. The 10th value, let's look, so 10th value, that was a 23. The 11th value, that was a 24. So now I have to take the midpoint between these two things, and that's fine. I'm just going to add them together. And I'm going to divide by 2, just like I normally would if I had this listed out. So now my median is equal to this midpoint between the 23 and the 24. So that's kind of funky where you have your median is a midpoint between two values, but those two values occur in adjacent bins. But that's how you do it. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is how to do mean, median, and mode for the grouped data. So this is really similar to homework 2.5 problem number 3. So let's say we have our data given here, right? So this is what the problem will give you. And it still wants the mean, median, and mode. So again, let's just start with the mode. So looking at our frequency, I can see that 22 is happening the most often. So this is going to tell us what our mode is. But I can't just say, oh, this equals blah, because that's not what's happening, right? Like that's a class or a bin. So what I need to do is I actually need to use the midpoint. So let's create some space for ourselves. So I'm going to insert 3 columns to the left. So I'm going to do low, high, and I'm going to do a little m for midpoint. So my low is 40, right? I'm just going to record the lower end of all these bins. So I got 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65. Now Excel does recognize patterns very well. So I probably could have put in 3 of those and then just drop down. Beautiful. And then I'm going to do 44, 49, 54. And I think at this point, Excel will recognize. If you want Excel to recognize a pattern, highlight the first like starting chunk of it. So I've highlighted all 3. And then when those 3 are highlighted, you can pull down and it actually gives you a preview in the bottom right corner to make sure that you know what Excel is doing before you commit to it. Okay, so now I have my low, my high. Those again are just stolen from the data categories. And then what I want to do for my midpoint is I want to just take the midpoint, which again, the midpoint is computed just by adding them together and dividing by 2. So equals, open your parens because you want to add them together first, low plus high, close your paren, and then divide by 2. Once you have that, you can hit enter. And the cool thing about this is I don't have to do that for each one. I can just go double click, and now I have the midpoint for each category. So my mode isn't 45-49. My mode is actually the midpoint, right? 47. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to compute the median. So the median, again, just like last time, it's going to be the center of the data as far as it being listed out. So we need to know how many data values we have. So I'm going to insert another row, give myself a little bit more room, and I'm going to create a cumulative frequency table column. So again, cumulative frequency is just the first frequency, and then it's and then it's the next frequency plus the previous frequency, then it's the next frequency after that plus the previous CF, and so on and so forth. So let's just double check that we got the right thing. I always check my cumulative frequency by taking the sum of the frequencies and making sure that they have the same number. Aha, good, awesome. So I have 73 data values. 73 being an odd number tells me that my median is going to just be one number, right? So I'm going to have, here's how I do it in my mind anyway. I add 1 and then divide by 2, and then that number is the data value. Okay, let's do an example. Let's say I have 11 data values. Let's say I have 0, 1, no, let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, Excel is going to take me the rest of the way, please. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So here's a case where I have an odd number. If I add 1, I get 12. And then if I divide 12 by 2, I get 6. So is 6 the median? Does this method work? I don't know, let's check. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the right. So I'm feeling very good. All right, so that definitely works. Again, that was just add 1, divide by 2. So 74, I'm gonna use Excel's calculator really quick. 74 divided by 2 is 37. So the median is at 37. Just so 37th data value. So where does the 37th data value occur? I feel like I can see it already. It's right there, square on the 45 to 49. So that means the 37th value is somewhere between 45 and 49. So instead of saying 45-49, I use the midpoint, right? Okay, so the median is also 47. Interesting. But now we have to do the mean. So in order to do the mean, let's see, I think I'm going to do it just in a separate table just for visual clarity. So I need my midpoint and I need my frequency. So actually, I'll just keep them all together. Okay. I'm gonna, All right, so I paste them down here. Rip sheesh. So I moved it and it was like, I don't know what you're referencing anymore, because when I move it, it moves the reference down with it. So notice that this thing wants to look at something that's not there. That's okay, I'll fix it really quick. I'm going to fix these references by saying it's this plus this, as it was before, and then I can go ahead and just double click to clear that all out. So notice that they're matching again. All right, groovy. So group frequency. We need to take the frequency times the midpoint. So just really quickly, in the previous example, it was just the frequency times X. I'm looking here now. It was just the frequency times X because we didn't have bins, we just had like data values. Here, because we have categories or bins, we're doing the same thing, but instead of times X, we're taking the midpoint. So I'm just going to take the frequency, which is 15, and I'm going to multiply it. That's Shift 8 for the asterisks. And I'm going to click the midpoint. So I should have these two things multiplied together. And then Excel will know that I want to do that for each row throughout my data. So I double click and I get that. If you ever want to see what Excel's doing, you can click on the cell, head up to the bar right here. If you select in the bar, it will color code highlight what cells it's calling on. And so you can verify that it's being accurate, or at least that what it's doing matches what you want it to do, which is usually the part where people start growing gray hair over Excel. Why isn't it doing what I wanted it to do? All right, so again, that was equaling your frequency times your midpoint. Great. And then to have it auto-populate, click on the cell, hover bottom right for black plus, double click, and join. Alrighty, so now we've got your frequency times M, and we've got our frequency. So remembering that the mean is the sum of the frequency times your midpoint divided by the sum of your frequency, right? So that's the name of the game for the mean, and then we have to round appropriately. So the sum of our frequency times m and the sum of our frequencies, that's what we're after. So let's do the first one, frequency times n. So just equal sum and select your frequency times m data column. Enter. Or the sum of the frequency equals sum, and then just highlight all your frequencies. Okay, so that means that our mean is just the ratio of these two numbers, equals the sum of the frequencies times m divided by the sum of the frequencies, and we get 51.72603. So I'm going to label our mean up here equals this number, and I want to round this to 1 decimal place. So I right click in the cell, format, number 1. And that's what I get. I would like to add that the online homework is, it's like telling you how many decimals it wants it to. So in this particular problem, it's like round it to 2 decimal places. Does it bother me? Yes. Do I want to reprogram it? No. Did I write it originally? No. The proper rounding is to 1 decimal place, but basically just round to whatever mom says. If you're kind of left to your own devices, say like doing something not in mom, just always round to 1 more decimal place than is given in the original data. All right, I think that's all I wanted to say about homework 2.5 problems 2 and 3. So good luck, enjoy, and I will, I guess, talk to you soon.